On a lonely rise in the blazing African savanna, an old baboon sat completely still. No fear, no struggle, just the quiet surrender of a creature who had reached the end. But a few seconds later, something appeared on the horizon, something that would transform his final moments into a story you will never forget. The sun hung mercilessly over the plains, washing everything in blinding gold. On a small mound of dry, cracked earth, the old baboon sat hunched over, his body a fragile outline against the shimmering heat. His once strong limbs now trembled with age. His fur had thinned to patchy wisps of gray, and his ribs rose and fell with shallow, fatigued breaths. His troop had moved on hours ago, forced by instinct to abandon those who could no longer keep pace. It was not cruelty, it was survival. But the baboon did not call out. He did not attempt to stand. His eyes held neither panic nor resistance. They reflected something far heavier: acceptance. He had lived his battles. He had survived droughts, predators, rival troops, and harsh seasons. But today, life had finally asked more of him than he had left to give. Then, through the wavering curtain of heat, two shapes emerged. A full-maned male lion, thick-chested and carrying the calm authority of a seasoned ruler, and beside him, a lioness with the sleek, predatory stillness of a born hunter. They did not stalk, they did not chase, they simply walked, slow, deliberate steps toward an effortless meal. The male lion stopped barely 3 meters away. His amber eyes narrowed as he studied the baboon's unmoving form. Something was different. There was no trembling, no instinctive flinch, no fight. The old baboon simply lowered his head. It was not submission, it was surrender. But before nature completed its course, another figure was watching. 1 kilometer away, navigating the dusty expanse in a patrol vehicle, was Raphael, a senior wildlife ranger whose life had been shaped by the rhythm of this land. For more than 15 years, he had honored one sacred rule: respect the circle of life, never interfere. This rule was not just protocol, it was the backbone of the reserve, the invisible law that kept the ecosystem in balance. But as Raphael raised his binoculars, the scene that filled his lenses made his breath catch. This was not a hunt. This was an execution of the exhausted. He saw the old baboon motionless, the lions poised to end a life that had already stopped resisting. And something deep within Raphael shifted. His rational ranger's mind warned him instantly. Interference could disrupt predator behavior. Interference could endanger him. Interference violated the very foundation of the reserve. But the human inside him, the part shaped by empathy, by memory, by the understanding that every creature carries a long, hard story, refused to look away. Was this truly the natural order? Was this dignified? Should a life that had endured so much end in helpless silence beneath a merciless sun? Raphael felt the weight of a choice no ranger ever wants to face. And then he made it. He slammed the gear into drive. The Jeep roared forward, kicking dust into the air. He aimed directly at the standoff, not to strike, but to disrupt. His strategy was rooted entirely in understanding predator psychology. Lions conserve energy. They prioritize effortless kills. If he could turn simplicity into inconvenience, he could save a life without escalating violence. He accelerated, careful but fast enough to create uncertainty. He switched on his high beams, flooding the scene with a blinding white glare. Then he laid his hand on the horn, holding it down in one long, unnatural shriek. The male lion froze. His head shot up, ears twisting toward the deafening noise. The lioness retreated a few meters, switching from predatory focus to wary alertness. They were not terrified of the Jeep, but they were irritated, confused, disrupted. And for predators, irritation costs energy. The lion calculated. The baboon was easy prey, but the human was loud, determined, unpredictable. The cost of obtaining the meal had suddenly increased far beyond the reward. With a low rumble of annoyance, the male lion turned away. The lioness followed. Seconds later, both melted back into the distant shade. The standoff was over. But what came next would be far more delicate. Raphael turned off the engine. Silence slammed down on the landscape. He stepped out slowly, hands relaxed at his sides, every movement calculated to show respect rather than dominance. The old baboon remained where he sat, still not fleeing from death, and now not fleeing from life either. Raphael approached, stopping a few feet away. The baboon lifted his tired face, eyes clouded with confusion, fatigue, and something like sorrow. He was not afraid. He was simply finished. Raphael knelt carefully. "It's all right, old one," he whispered. "You're safe for now." He took out his water bottle, unscrewed the cap, and poured a cool pool of water into his palm. This was the most fragile moment of all. Trust in the wild is not given. It is earned in seconds or lost forever. The baboon hesitated. Then, trembling, he reached forward, not grabbing, not snapping, just gently licking the water from Raphael's hand. One drop, then another, a rhythm of survival rediscovered. Raphael let him drink slowly. When the baboon's breathing steadied, he assessed him gently. No wounds, no injuries, just severe dehydration, malnutrition, and the crushing exhaustion of an aging body pushed beyond its limits. With steady hands, Raphael lifted him onto a soft blanket in the back seat, shielding him from the sun. As he drove toward the recovery center, he finally allowed himself a long exhale. He had broken the rule, but he had upheld a deeper one. Compassion is also part of the natural order. At the rehabilitation center, the old baboon received fluids and quiet care. For the first time in months, maybe years, he slept in peace rather than fear. His life would not stretch for decades more, but the chapter he had feared most would now be written with dignity instead of despair. This story is not just about the wild, it is about us. All of us face our own lion moments, times when exhaustion, pressure, and circumstance corner us until we feel like giving up. We bow our heads, just like the old baboon, convinced the world has chosen our final day. But sometimes, hope arrives from an unexpected direction. Sometimes, a Raphael appears, a distraction that breaks the darkness, a voice that offers reassurance, a hand that gives us just one more drop of strength. Raphael didn't save the baboon from death, but he saved him from hopelessness. And sometimes, that is the greater miracle. If this story moved you, if it reminded you that compassion has the power to change a destiny, take a moment to like this video and share it. And if you want more stories where instinct collides with empathy and the unexpected redefines the wild, subscribe and stay with us, because the next story will show you why kindness is the strongest force on the savanna.